Ladies and gentlemen, we've got an update regarding the Trump administration's plan to bolster birth rates in the United States. It's an epidemic that's really impacting all first world countries in terms of the lower birth rates throughout the world. The United States is no different. There are a number of reasons that this is caused by. I'm going to get into that a little bit, but first we're going to be looking at something that Trump reportedly is considering doing: $5,000 baby bonus to mothers to increase the birth rates. That's according to the New York Times. The White House reportedly coming up with strategies to tackle declining birth and marriage rates as well. In addition to $5,000 baby bonus is what they're calling it, the administration is considering reserving 30% of Fulbright program scholarships for married applicants or those who have children, according to the report. And then U.S. birth rates have been declining. 2023 seeing a record low of just 55 births per every 1,000 women. And it's surprising that this hasn't been a bigger story within the administration, considering how much Elon Musk talks about this specifically. He was really at the forefront. If you guys remember, it kind of was hand in hand with the whole global warming, climate change stuff back in like 2015, 2016. They said, well, we're overpopulated, which is completely false when you look at how many people there are, how much open land there is. Now, certain cities, like in India and China, and even the United States, you could argue New York City, some cities maybe are overpopulated, but in general, the earth the earth is wide open, land is plentiful, bunch of empty land. So much of Canada is uninhabited. And I mean, you look at the Great Plains as well. There's just so much wide open space. The idea that we're dealing with overpopulation, it's not a big issue anymore in terms of people trying to argue that, because it just doesn't make any sense. And now we have the problem to where, well, all these first world countries, you look at China, you look at Japan, now China lying about their population. They've been doing it for many years, but they had a rule to where you could only have the one child policy. Now they're saying, no, we need more kids. You look at their issues, you look at our issues with Social Security in terms of the amount of retirees per workers. It's getting really, really bad. It's like 2.5 retirees per one worker, or it might be like 4.5. And so that's why the Social Security is going to run out, or it's going to be reduced by 2033 in about 7 or 8 years. It's going to be cut down to like 77% benefits totally given out, because we are running out of money because of the way Social Security works. It's like a Ponzi scheme or a pyramid scheme, I should say, to where the people that are working right now, we're paying for the people that are in Social Security. That we're paying for them. People think, well, I'm paying for my own Social Security because the taxes are coming out right now. Well, no, you're paying for people that are in the program right now, and then when you get into the program, the people that are working are going to be paying for you. But when it comes to this is more of a cultural problem, and it's really a 21st century issue. And there's a number of things we can talk about. Certainly, the government could help, because you look at this problem and you say, well, number one, it costs a lot of money to have children now in the United States. With inflation, with housing costs, a lot of that can be driven back to immigration in general, the competitive housing market. I would say immigration and feminism are the two biggest reasons why. I wouldn't say the two biggest, because we're seeing this everywhere, but they're two of the biggest reasons why we're seeing this birth rate issue. Another one is technology and 21st century advancements in terms of people nowadays want instant gratification. They do not want to sacrifice. And when it comes to what feminism is teaching young women, and even some of these young men, the mentality of it, especially with the young women, the amount of them that are in college, they get into terrible debt. They get virtually useless degrees, or degrees that are worth very little considering everyone has these degrees. Now you're in debt, you're 23, 24. The modern thing to do as a woman is to work, $50,000 in debt, entry-level job making $45K. How are you going to have kids? And a lot of these women, because of the feminism, they're taught that kids they're a burden on you and you shouldn't have them. And then when they're 40, 45, 50, it becomes a huge issue, because you talk to any old women that have sons and daughters, family is everything when you get older. That's the only thing you have. All this material stuff. It's like, oh, I've got a cubicle job. I mean, that's one of the things with guys, and we understand with dynamics now in terms of the 21st century, it's hard to find a guy, if you are a woman, that will support both of you and your children. He needs to be making $150K, I would say, depending on where you live. It does matter for sure. But ideally the man would be working and providing, and the woman would be nurturing for the children. And certainly there's a big problem in the cost of living when it comes to a one income household being able to support that in the 21st century in the United States, as well as, again, it's a number of factors. It's feminism, it's the advancement of technology, instant gratification, the dopamine problem we're seeing now, to where we've got these receptors, they're already so high, the standard is so high to meet them. People don't want to have kids and sacrifice that in terms of taking care of a child for the first 7 or 8 years with very little benefit. But there is fulfillment throughout every year of a child's life. It's just people don't want to deal with it. These women would rather be boss bitches, and they'd rather do all this stuff, and it's just so unattractive as a guy to see this and this mentality. But this is just how it is, and it's not just because of feminism. There's also other things at play, like the cost of everything, like housing costs. That's driven by immigration, competitiveness within the housing market. So it's really all of these factors coming together. So can you slap down $5,000 on the table and say this will significantly help? Probably not, honestly. Now, it's something that the government has to do because you have to be proactive. When you see birth rates like this in the United States, when it comes to our native population, it is a serious problem. It's like DEFCON 5. And maybe this little bonus can help kickstart something. But I do think it's more of a cultural issue. And another thing in terms of religion being just such a huge foundational piece of the nuclear family, and people needing to find religion. And we are a Christian country. And it's so important when it comes to the morals that we want to abide by as a country to embrace Christianity and to embrace, it drives people closer to forming families and really creating that way. We've been driven away from it with all of this, just this materialistic tendency that people have in the 21st century, and it's a number of things, but it's technological advancements, it's modern day feminism, it's all the college stuff. They go to college, it's indoctrination. Really, college is, and listen, at this point, when you look at where we are at in the world, every girl in the United States goes to college. Every girl. And a lot of guys do as well. But when you have that, there's a number of things that happen. Number one, a degree is really not that important. It's not, you're not impressive if you have a degree. Everyone has a degree. And on top of that, you're already creating this expectation for women that, oh, you go into the workforce now, you spent money getting a degree, now you have to go work for all these years. And in some cases, just because of the housing costs and the cost of living, you do need dual income households. We'd love to change that and make it easier, like it was 50, 60 years ago, but it's easier said than done. And that's why I always say when it comes to birth rate, you've got Trump who's in for, at this point, 4 years. You're not gonna make a dent into this. This is a multi-decade commitment that's gonna have to be made, and it's not just $5,000. Now, look, I understand you need to do something. You do. You have to do something, and it can alleviate it a little bit if you offer people a financial incentive to have children, but it's a much bigger issue than just giving them $5,000. And it's a good, listen, you like what Trump is doing. He's trying to be proactive about this. This is a big problem in terms of birth rate decline. And it's not just the United States. It's pretty much all first world countries. They're dealing with this. And when it's also interesting because you look at what's happening with the birth rate when it comes to the United States compared to a place like Japan or China. We say, well, we have to, because we're having less kids. This is what it is. They say we have to replace that because there's less kids being made with immigrants. And other countries don't do that. That's why Japan's population is going down. They're saying we're not doing that. Now, we'll see what they do in the future, but they're saying we're not sacrificing our culture to gain us a few points in terms of GDP growth. And I 1,000% agree with that, by the way, 1,000%. And you look at China, China's like 100% Chinese, huh? But when you look at the United States, we are, and this is what they say this is a Western thing too, just in general, with lower birth rates, they say we have to be able to replenish that because we're not having enough kids with the immigration. And that's when the country changes, the fabric of it changes, and you're seeing it's so delicate when you change your country with immigrants who don't want to assimilate. And now it's racist to even say you have to assimilate to the immigrants. So it's a double whammy. You're not having kids. The immigration is coming in. So the population is maybe going up because of the immigrants, not because of your own native citizens. And then on top of that, they're saying, well, they don't have to assimilate. You have to accept them for who they are. And so this is just a quadruple negative we're dealing with. And it really goes to the whole birth rate problem. This is a serious crisis. I appreciate what Trump is doing, saying we need proactive. I mean, Musk has talked about this. Musk really broke it open because remember, there was the narrative amongst very liberal people to where they said there's too many people in the world. It's overpopulation. It's causing all of this global warming and everything like that. And then Musk said, are you kidding me? It makes no sense. When you look at our overall population relative to the land area, it's absurd. Now, individual cities might be overpopulated, but not in general. It's not even close. There's so much open land. And we can harness all of it, and we have renewable energy. We have renewable resources now, and we're using the sun more to generate energy, and that's all coming, and that's all going to be futuristic. We'll be able to starve off any type of global warming that is created just through technological advancement and human evolution. But the point is, this is a serious problem. So this is a culture thing. You can do this, and maybe it'll slightly help a little bit, but we see this happen in other countries to where they'll try and incentivize having kids through government money, but it tends to be more of a cultural thing to where you need the strong foundation of a religion, you need the strong foundation of the nuclear family, and you also need a way for young people to not feel trapped to where they all have to work because of housing costs, because of costs in general, costs at the grocery store. And that's what we need to try and get back to. But that's way easier said than done. And it doesn't happen in 4 years at all. It doesn't happen in 10 years. It's a multi-decade commitment that would have to be done. And again, it's not just X, Y, or Z. I mean, there's a number of things. There's a lot that goes into this, but because it's happening widespread in so many different regions of the world, especially first world countries that have advanced technology, I think a lot of this is instant gratification, social media, and you combine that with college and feminism and the cost of everything and the idea that everyone should be working. And also the idea that kids are a burden, and when you're 25, you should be out partying, not getting up at 3 a.m. because your 9-month-old is crying. I mean, this is the stuff that so when you have stuff like that, this is a reversal that is needed when it comes to the culture of the United States. And you know what? You can give them $5,000. It'll help a little bit. I like what they're doing, and I think it's important. But it is such a huge issue. It doesn't get changed and really shifted by just a government incentive. You need the foundation in place of a cultural system to where having children is the ultimate goal for people. Because it's not the goal right now. And it's more so going out and working and moving up in a field and doing all of this. And on top of that, the cost of living, it compounds it because children cost a ton on top of what the cost of living already is. So it's like you're getting hit with all of these negatives, and it's causing people to really stray away from having children. The country's getting more atheist. There's a lot more trepidation when it comes to religion. When the immigrants come in, there's no assimilation. You can't even say that, otherwise you're racist if you say it. So there's a bunch of problems. But listen, maybe this will help a little bit, I think, and I think they're also planning other things, but it's a cultural thing. And one of the big things that I think can help people have more kids is if we are able to fix the housing crisis, especially for young people, as well as something must be done with college. This is not sustainable. And it's interesting that nobody thinks college is this crazy issue. Look at the total debt women are running up in college. Men also have a lot of debt, but they're starting to pay it off. If you look at the graphs, men have paid off a lot more than women, but it's out of control, their debt. It's crazy. And they're running up this ridiculous debt. They've got more degrees, but the degrees are not impressive because everyone has degrees now. And degrees they're not becoming meaningless. I mean, obviously, it's very important. You want to be a lawyer, you want to be a doctor. There are certain jobs, and we know this argument, to where degrees are extremely meaningful and they're necessary. But it's like the system that we have right now. If you're going to college, you're getting some degree, generic degree for put you 50K in debt, and then your entry level job is paying you 45K, 50K, 55K for the first 4 or 5 years. Where does that put you by the time you're 28, 29 as a young woman? You're probably still paying off student loans, and your salary is extremely low. So see, there's a number of things that go into play when it comes to trying to fix this and correct it. But listen, maybe this will help a little bit. I know Poland has done something like this. From what I know, it's more of a cultural problem, and it's also a 21st century problem, just in terms of technological advances and this dopamine culture to where everything must be done immediately. There can't be any sacrifice. We all have that mentality, it seems like, or a lot of us do, just based off of, especially young kids now growing up on technology alone. They're constantly watching TikTok videos. It's 20 seconds, 15 seconds. It's constant dopamine all of the time. There can't be any sacrifice. And so that's another thing to talk about when it comes to young kids and phones, and how there needs to be more proactiveness in terms of the studying we do in regards to how it affects young people in terms of their development. Because I think a lot of these young kids are going to grow up with just complete brain rot, and the patience is going to be extremely thin for them because they're constantly getting hit with rushes of dopamine every time they watch TikTok, YouTube, whatever it is. And these kids are like 7 or 8 years old. They got phones already. It's really bad. And so maybe there's something that should be done about that. And then it needs to become an acceptable thing in culture to, well, if your kid has a phone at 8 years old, that should be frowned upon. But the problem is now these parents, you'll be in these friend groups, and it's like your child is the only one that doesn't have a phone, so you're the mean parent. And the kid's like 10 years old. That's what happens now. So the culture has to change on that to where, no, you don't give your kid, when the kid's 10 years old, he doesn't get a phone. It stunts the development. It just, but I'd like to see studies on that. But either way, guys, we'll see if this ends up working. At least they're trying to do something. $5,000 baby bonus, and there's going to have to be more that gets done. But you have to do something to try and reverse this. That's going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.